I know because I stood at the National Military Cemetery in Ottawa while they presented me with the folded flag. I know because I identified what little remained of her through dental records and a small tattoo behind her left ear, a tiny maple leaf she'd gotten on her 18th birthday. My daughter, Emily Thompson, died in Kandahar, Afghanistan, on March 15, 2008. She was 22 years old, an Army medic with the Canadian Forces. I buried her with full military honors 17 years ago. Last month, I received a package. It came through international mail, postmarked from Istanbul, Turkey. Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten note on torn paper. The handwriting made my knees buckle. I'd recognize it anywhere. The way she looped her Y's, the slight slant to the left. The note read, "Dad, it's me. I know you think I'm dead. Please don't tell the military yet. I need to come home the right way. Watch the video. I love you. M." I sat in my kitchen in Portland, Oregon, staring at that note for 2 hours straight. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. This had to be some cruel hoax. Some sick person who'd somehow gotten access to military records. Emily was dead. I'd mourned her. My wife Margaret had mourned her until the grief literally consumed her. Alzheimer's took what was left of her 3 years after we lost Emily. But that handwriting, that nickname, only family called her M. I plugged the USB drive into my old laptop with trembling fingers. The video file loaded, 30 seconds of grainy footage, clearly shot on a cheap phone in dim lighting. And there she was, older, so much older. Her face was thinner, weathered, with a long scar running from her right temple down to her jaw. Her hair, once long and blonde, was short and streaked with gray. But her eyes, those were Emily's eyes. The same green-gray that reminded me of the Pacific Ocean on a stormy day. "Dad," her voice cracked through the speakers. "I don't have much time, and this is going to sound impossible, but I'm alive. I've been alive this whole time. I was captured after the ambush. Worse. I can't explain everything in this video. There are people helping me now, good people, but I need you to know, I'm coming home. Don't tell the military yet, please. There are things I need to make right first. I'll contact you again soon. I love you so much. Tell Mom. Oh God, is Mom still?" The video cut off. I watched it 47 times that first night. I counted. Each time, I looked for proof it was fake, bad editing, inconsistencies, anything. But every time, all I saw was my daughter, my Emily, aged 17 years, scarred and broken, but alive. The logical part of my brain screamed that this was impossible. The father in me, the part that had never fully accepted her death, whispered that miracles happen. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. I kept thinking about the funeral, the honor guard, the 21-gun salute, the coffin they'd lowered into the ground. If Emily was alive, who the hell did I bury? On the third day, my phone rang. Unknown number, international calling code. "Dad?" I dropped the phone, picked it up with shaking hands. "Emily? It's me." She started crying. "God, it's really you. Your voice. I've imagined hearing your voice for so long. Where are you? How is this possible?" They said. "They identified your body, DNA evidence. Your dental records matched." I know what they said. "Dad, I need you to listen carefully. After the ambush, I was taken. By local insurgents at first. Then, it's complicated. I was moved around, held in different places. I tried to escape twice in the first year, failed both times. The second time, I got caught in an explosion, took shrapnel to the head. When I woke up, I couldn't remember anything. Not my name, not where I was from, nothing. My heart was breaking and soaring at the same time. For how long? Almost 10 years. Her voice was hollow. I lived in a village on the Syrian border. The people there, they took care of me. They called me Amira. I helped their medic. Apparently, some things are muscle memory because I could still treat wounds, set bones, but I couldn't remember who I was. Then, about 3 years ago, something triggered it. A Canadian news report on an old TV. They were talking about veterans, showing footage from Afghanistan. Something clicked. Memories started coming back in pieces. It took another year before I fully remembered everything, who I was. You, Mom, home. I was crying now, tears streaming down my face. Why didn't you contact us then? I tried to find out what happened after I was taken. Dad, there's something you need to know. The person they buried, that wasn't me. After I was captured, there was another explosion at our forward operating base 2 days later. A local woman who'd been helping us. She was killed. Her body was badly burned. In the chaos, with me missing and presumed dead, they made a mistake. The dental records, the DNA, somehow they got mixed up. My blood ran cold. What was her name? Dalal Hassan. She was 24 years old. She had a mother and 2 younger brothers in Kandahar. Dad, she saved my life the day before I was taken. Warned us about the ambush, but I didn't get the message in time. The insurgents took me because they knew I'd been talking to her family. Emily's voice broke. Her family never got her body. They never got to bury their daughter. Because she was buried as me, in Ottawa, with military honors that belonged to them. I sank into my chair. Oh God, I can't come home until this is made right. I won't. Dalal's family has suffered for 17 years, not knowing what happened to her. Her mother is still alive, Dad. She deserves to bury her daughter. And I need to face what I've done, or what was done in my name. What you've done? Emily, you didn't do anything wrong. I survived when I should have contacted someone, anyone, the moment my memory came back. But I was terrified. I knew about the mistake. I knew coming forward meant destroying everything. Your grief, the closure you'd found, the military's records. I was a coward. No. I stood up, pacing my small kitchen. No, you were traumatized. You survived hell. Don't you dare call yourself a coward. We talked for 2 hours. She told me about the refugee organization in Turkey that had helped her, the UN workers, who were working to verify her identity without alerting the Canadian military yet. She told me about the nightmares, the PTSD that made it hard to sleep, the guilt that consumed her every day. I told her about her mother, how Margaret had declined so quickly after losing her, how she'd spent her final years forgetting we'd ever had a daughter, which I'd convinced myself was a mercy. I told her about the life insurance money I'd refused to touch, how I'd donated every cent to a veterans charity because I couldn't stand the thought of profiting from her death. I told her I'd kept her room exactly as she'd left it. I'm coming to you, I said. Tell me where you are. Dad, no. It's not safe yet. And there are things I need to do first. I need to find Dalal's family. I need to tell them the truth. I need to make this right before I can come home. Then I'll help you. Let me help you, Em. She was quiet for a long moment. Okay, but you can't tell anyone yet. Not the military, not friends, no one. Not until we've found Dalal's family and made a plan. Can you do that? Yes, anything. Over the next 3 weeks, I became someone I'd never been before. Secretive, obsessed, living a double life. To my friends at the VA hospital where I volunteered, to my neighbors, to everyone, I was just Marcus Thompson, retired firefighter, widower, living a quiet life. But in reality, I was working 16-hour days, connecting with UN organizations, refugee advocates, anyone who could help us find Dalal Hassan's family. The Canadian military's records showed that Dalal's family had fled Kandahar in 2010. Her mother and brothers had ended up in a refugee camp in Pakistan, then eventually resettled in Germany in 2015. We found them in Hamburg. Dalal's mother, Farida, now 68 years old, and her youngest brother, Omar, who'd been 12 when his sister disappeared. Emily contacted them through an intermediary first, a trauma counselor who specialized in war losses. The truth had to be delivered carefully. The family had spent 17 years believing Dalal had simply vanished, likely killed but never confirmed. They'd had no body, no closure, nothing but questions and grief. The day we told them the truth, I was on a video call with Emily, the counselor, and an interpreter. Farida's face, when she learned her daughter had been buried with honor, even if under the wrong name, was something I'll never forget. She wept, but not tears of anger, tears of relief. All these years, Omar translated for his mother. I thought she was left somewhere, forgotten, but she was cared for. Someone gave her the dignity she deserved. I'm so sorry, Emily said, her own tears flowing. Your sister saved my life. She was brave and kind, and she deserved so much better than this. Farida spoke again, and Omar translated. My daughter would be glad you survived. She became a translator because she wanted to build bridges, Finding out you're alive doesn't take her from us. We lost her 17 years ago, but knowing the truth, knowing where she is, this is a gift. That's when we made the plan. Emily would return to Canada, but not in secret. We would work with the military to acknowledge the mistake, to exhume the remains from the National Military Cemetery, and to return Dalal to her family for a proper burial, according to their customs. Emily would face whatever consequences came from her years of silence. I used every connection I had, called in favors from my old fire department colleagues, from veterans advocates, from military chaplains who'd helped me through Margaret's death. I wrote letters to MPs, to military officials, to anyone who would listen. This wasn't about covering up a mistake. It was about making it right. The Canadian forces initially resisted. The paperwork alone was a nightmare. Admitting to a misidentification 17 years later meant investigations, reviews, potential lawsuits. But when Emily's DNA results came back, matched against my own DNA this time, triple-checked, they couldn't deny the truth. 4 months after I received that USB drive, Emily Thompson officially came back from the dead. The media went crazy, of course. Canadian soldier returns. After 17 years presumed dead, military mix-up leaves families in limbo. The story was everywhere. We tried to control the narrative, to focus on Dalal's family and the need to make things right, but the sensational aspects were unavoidable. I flew to Toronto to meet Emily at the airport. I got there 6 hours early, too nervous to wait at home. When she finally walked through those doors, wearing civilian clothes and carrying a small backpack that apparently contained everything she owned in the world, I barely recognized her. She was so thin. The scars were more visible in person. She moved like someone expecting an ambush at any moment, quick glances, tense shoulders, one hand always hovering near her bag. But when she saw me, when our eyes met, 17 years dissolved. "Dad," she whispered. I don't remember closing the distance between us. Suddenly we were holding each other, both of us sobbing in the middle of the arrivals terminal, while travelers moved around us. She felt fragile in my arms, all sharp edges and tension. But she was real. She was alive. She was home. "I've got you," I kept saying. "I've got you now." The next few months were harder than I'd expected. Emily moved into my house in Portland, back into her old room that I'd preserved like a shrine. But she couldn't sleep there. Too many memories of the person she'd been before, a bright 22-year-old who'd thought she was invincible. She ended up sleeping on the couch in the living room, or sometimes not sleeping at all. The nightmares were bad. She'd wake up screaming, speaking in languages I didn't recognize, Pashto, Arabic, fragments of the life she'd lived when she wasn't Emily Thompson. The PTSD was severe. Loud noises sent her diving for cover. Crowds made her panic. Some days she couldn't get out of bed. I got her enrolled in the VA's PTSD treatment program. Therapy 3 times a week, group sessions with other veterans, medication to help with the anxiety and insomnia. It was a slow process. Some days we took steps forward. Others, we fell back. But we did it together. The military investigation concluded that the misidentification had been the result of multiple failures. Chaos in the field, improper documentation, and laboratory errors in the DNA processing. They'd matched samples incorrectly, and because I'd been in such deep grief, I'd never questioned the identification process. They'd wanted to give me closure, so they'd been less rigorous than they should have been. No one was criminally charged, but policies were changed. The Canadian forces implemented new identification protocols, multiple verification steps, mandatory independent confirmation. Emily's case became a teaching example, how not to handle battlefield casualties. 6 months after Emily came home, we flew to Hamburg with Dalal's remains. The military had agreed to exhume the grave, and after extensive testing, confirmed that the DNA belonged to Dalal Hassan. We accompanied her body to Germany, where her family was waiting. The funeral was beautiful. I'd arranged for a military honor guard, Canadian Forces members who volunteered to participate. Dalal had worked with our military, risked her life to help us, and she deserved those honors. Her family welcomed it. Farida held my hand during the service. "Thank you for taking care of my daughter," she said through the interpreter. "Thank you for giving her dignity, even when you thought she was yours. I'm sorry it took so long to bring her home to you." She squeezed my hand. "You didn't know? And now, both our daughters are alive. Yours in body, mine in memory. This is enough. After the funeral, Emily spent hours talking with Omar. He'd become a doctor. Inspired by his sister's desire to help people, they exchanged stories about Dalal, filling in the pieces of who she'd been. Emily learned that Dalal had loved poetry, had dreamed of becoming a teacher, had been engaged to be married before the war consumed everything. On the flight home, Emily was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "I need to do something meaningful with this second chance." "You will. You are." "No, I mean, Dad, I survived when I shouldn't have. Dalal died helping us. Mom spent her last years without me. There has to be a reason I'm still here." Over the next year, Emily and I worked together to establish the Dalal Hassan Foundation. We funded it with my retirement savings, Emily's eventual military settlement, and donations from people who'd heard our story. The foundation provided support for refugees affected by war, medical care, trauma counseling, education assistance, and family reunification services. Emily couldn't go back to active military service. The PTSD was too severe, and the years of captivity had left her with physical limitations too. But she found purpose in the foundation. She interviewed refugees, listening to their stories, helping them navigate the systems that seemed designed to keep them displaced. She was particularly good with the kids, children who'd lost years of their lives to violence and displacement, just like she had. I joined her in the work. After 40 years as a firefighter, I'd thought my helping days were over. But this was different. This was about saving people from a different kind of fire, the one that burns inside when you've lost everything. One day, about 2 years after Emily came home, we were at the Foundation's office in Portland. A Syrian family had just arrived, and their teenage daughter reminded me so much of what Emily must have looked like in captivity. Lost, traumatized, but fighting to survive. "You're good at this," I told Emily as we watched the girl slowly open up to one of our counselors. "I understand them. That's the thing, Dad. For 10 years, I was them. I was the refugee with no name, no past, no future. The people in that village, they saved me without even knowing who I was. I have to pay that forward. Your mother would be so proud of you." Emily's eyes filled with tears. I wish she could have known I survived. She knew. I'd spent years thinking about this. In those final years, when the Alzheimer's took her memories, she'd sometimes talk about you in the present tense. She'd ask me when you were coming home from school, or what you wanted for dinner. The doctors said it was just confusion, but I think part of her knew. Part of her never accepted that you were gone. Do you think she forgives me for not being there when she needed me? There's nothing to forgive. You were surviving. And you know what? By surviving, by coming home, by doing this work, you're honoring her memory. Mom spent her last coherent years volunteering at homeless shelters, helping people nobody else would help. You're continuing that legacy. The work wasn't easy. Some days Emily had setbacks, times when the PTSD won, and she couldn't function. Some nights I'd find her in the kitchen at 3 a.m., unable to sleep, working on grant applications or reviewing refugee cases. She pushed herself too hard, driven by guilt and a need to justify her survival. I learned to recognize the warning signs, the days when she was too quiet, too focused, not eating enough. On those days, I'd make her stop. We'd go for a walk along the Columbia River, or I'd cook her favorite meal from childhood, or we'd just sit together in silence. Sometimes surviving means knowing when to rest. 3 years after she came home, Emily met someone, another veteran, a woman named Sarah, who'd served in Afghanistan around the same time Emily did. They met at a PTSD support group. Sarah understood the nightmares, the hypervigilance, the way certain sounds or smells could transport you back to the worst moments. I watched Emily learn to trust again, to let someone in. It was slow and messy and beautiful. Sarah had her own scars, her own demons. They helped each other carry the weight. The day Emily told me they were moving in together, she looked nervous. I know it's only been a year since we started dating, and I know my track record with consistency isn't great. But Dad, she makes me feel safe. For the first time since I came home, when I'm with her, I can sleep through the night. Then that's all that matters. You don't think I'm rushing into this? I thought about Margaret, how I'd known within 3 months that I'd marry her, how we'd had 35 beautiful years together before Alzheimer's stole her away. You've lived more lifetimes than most people twice your age. If you found someone who makes you feel safe, hold on to that. Life's too short and too uncertain not to. They got married 2 years later, in a small ceremony at the foundation's office. Farida and Omar flew in from Germany. Refugees we'd helped over the years filled the room. Sarah's military unit sent representatives. The Canadian forces, trying to make amends for their mistakes, sent an honor guard. It wasn't the wedding I'd imagined for my daughter back when she was born. It was smaller, quieter, marked by the kind of hard-won joy that only comes after surviving darkness. But watching Emily stand there, holding Sarah's hands, smiling with a peace I hadn't seen in her eyes since before she'd enlisted, that was everything. In my toast, I said, Emily died 17 years ago in Afghanistan. But the woman standing here today, she's someone new, someone forged by loss and survival, by guilt and redemption. And I'm honored to know her. I'm honored to be her father, both times. Now, 5 years after that USB drive arrived at my door, I'm 73 years old. Emily is 44, though sometimes she seems ancient, and other times she seems impossibly young. The foundation has helped over 300 refugee families resettle and rebuild their lives. We've expanded to 3 cities. Emily still has bad days. PTSD doesn't just disappear, but she's learned to live with it, to recognize her triggers, to ask for help when she needs it. Sarah is patient and steady, everything Emily needs. I think about the future now in ways I couldn't before. For 17 years, my future was just a gray expanse of time to get through. Now it's full of possibilities. Emily and Sarah are talking about having kids, adoption, probably, given the medical complications from Emily's injuries. The thought of grandchildren, of continuing our family line after I was so sure it had ended, fills me with a joy I can't fully express. But I also think about Dalal, her grave in Hamburg, tended by her mother and brother, the life she should have lived, the children she should have had. Emily's survival doesn't erase Dalal's death. Her happiness doesn't balance the scales. That's the thing about war, about trauma, about loss. There's no neat resolution. You don't get over it or move on. You carry it with you. The trick is learning how to carry it without letting it crush you. I've learned that second chances are rare and precious, that guilt can be transformed into purpose, that families aren't just bound by blood. They're bound by the people who choose to stand with you in the darkness. I've learned that the truth, no matter how painful, is better than a comfortable lie, that acknowledging mistakes, even 17 years later, is the only way to honor the people who were harmed by them. I've learned that my daughter is one of the strongest people I've ever known, not because she survived captivity or because she came home, but because she chose to face the truth instead of hiding from it, because she took her pain and turned it into something that helps others. And I've learned that even in the deepest grief, even when you're standing at a grave saying goodbye to your child, there's a small part of the human spirit that refuses to give up hope, that keeps a light burning in the window, that recognizes handwriting on a note and dares to believe in miracles. If you're reading this, if you're someone who's lost someone to war, to violence, to circumstances beyond your control, I want you to know this. Your grief is valid. Your anger is justified. The hole left in your life is real, and it won't be filled. But also know that life has a way of surprising us, that endings aren't always final, that the people we love leave marks on the world that persist even when we think they're gone. And if you're someone who's made mistakes, who's carried guilt, who's wondering if it's too late to make things right, it's not. It's never too late to tell the truth. It's never too late to honor the people we've wronged. It's never too late to turn pain into purpose. Emily was dead for 17 years, and then she wasn't. Dalal was forgotten for 17 years, and then she was remembered. Margaret lost her memories, but her legacy of helping others lives on through her daughter. These days, I volunteer at the foundation 3 days a week. I help with intake interviews, sit with families as they tell their stories, process the paperwork that will help them start new lives. Emily works alongside me, and sometimes Sarah joins us too. Yesterday, a father came in with his teenage son. They'd fled violence in Somalia, spent years in a refugee camp, finally made it to Canada. The father's hands shook as he filled out forms. His son sat rigid in his chair, eyes darting to the exits, body tense. I recognized that look. I'd seen it in Emily when she first came home. It gets better, I told them. Not easy, not fast, but better. The father looked at me with eyes that had seen too much. How do you know? Because I've been where you are. Different circumstances, but the same fear, the same uncertainty. My daughter came back from the dead. If that's possible, anything is. He didn't believe me. I could see it in his face. But that's okay. Hope isn't something you can give to someone. They have to find it themselves. All we can do is create the conditions where hope has a chance to grow. That night, I had dinner with Emily and Sarah at their house. We ate lasagna, Emily's favorite from childhood, a recipe from Margaret that I've perfected over years of practice. We talked about the Foundation's expansion plans, about Sarah's new position at the VA hospital, about the possibility of them starting a family. As I drove home, I thought about the man I was 17 years ago, standing at Arlington National Cemetery, holding a folded flag, believing with absolute certainty that my daughter was dead. If someone had told me then that she'd come home, that we'd work together helping refugees, that she'd find love and peace, I wouldn't have believed them. Life is strange like that. The things we're certain of can turn out to be wrong. The endings we accept can turn into new beginnings. The losses we mourn can transform into purposes we pursue. I'm not grateful for what happened to Emily. I wouldn't wish her suffering on anyone. But I'm grateful for who she became because of it. I'm grateful for every day I have with her now, knowing how easily I could have lost all these days. And I'm grateful that from all that pain, Emily's captivity, Dalal's death, Margaret's decline, something good emerged. A foundation that helps people, a daughter who survived and thrived, a family that chose to honor truth over comfortable lies. That's what I want people to take from our story. Not the sensational parts about survival and mistaken identity, not the drama of a daughter returning from the dead, but this, that acknowledging hard truths is always better than perpetuating comforting lies. That guilt can be transformed into purpose. That the people we hurt deserve more than our apologies. They deserve our action. That families are built not just through birth, but through the choice to stand together through impossible circumstances. And that as long as we're alive, as long as we have the capacity to act, it's never too late to make things right. Emily was dead for 17 years. Now she's alive, and she's using that life to honor both the people who saved her and the person who died in her place. That's not redemption. You can't redeem mistakes that cost someone their life, but it's the closest thing to making amends that this broken world allows. And sometimes, that has to be enough.